Hey, what's up? We're lifewithoutpants with another Path of Exile video, and in today's video we're going to talk about our 3.25 League starter for Settlers of Kalgur. We're going to be going with Elemental Hit of the Spectrum. This is a really great skill. I was using it, testing it a little bit at the end of the last league. I was thinking about going Lightning Arrow, but it's just stronger, so we're going to go with this. I think a lot of content creators are going to go with Lightning Strike on either Warden or Deadeye. And I might roll into that later on, but I'm going to definitely max this out a lot in the first week. So I've got here a path of building, and we've got lots and lots of different trees for all of the different areas. There's a bunch of different skills, so like the campaign skills. We're still using Lightning Arrow to level through the campaign, and then a bunch of items as well. So just the stuff that you'll find on the floor as you go through. So let's just get through it real quick. As soon as we start off the campaign, I really like to rush for Precise Technique. Now, Precise Technique reads 40% more attack damage if your accuracy rating is higher than your maximum life. So if you go into the game and you, let's just take this character here. Now, this character doesn't actually have that passive allocated, but it's always better to do it in your hideout as well, because if you're in town, then auras don't apply. So if you have precision, then it doesn't matter, or it's not going to show up. So here, if you go into your offense, you'll see here my main hand attack rating is 4464, and that is much higher than my maximum life at the moment. This character I've done, I think, this is less than 24 hours. I was 1 hour, 4 days. I've been messing around with this character. It's level 92. It's got some very decent gear on it. I would describe this as very decent. This is like at least 24 hours into the league kind of gear that we would be expecting with this build. And then I got another build over here, which has just got a regular name for Path of Exile kind of test characters. And this one has, this is just gear we found during the campaign. So we've only got a 5 link. We got this Flesh and Spirit. We got this Devotos, and this has played 16 hours 25 minutes. This was enough with this bow is 676 LE DPS thicket bow. It's not that great, but we managed to get our first 2 Void Stones with it. So let's get straight back into this. So Precise Technique, really useful, a really fantastic keystone for us, because we're going to have very high accuracy through the campaign and later on until the crit swap. And just make sure, just go into the character panel every so often and make sure that your accuracy is higher than your life. Then coming into Act 2, we go through Primal Spirit to begin with, so we get the Strength and Intelligence, quite important. And then we're going to take Aspect of the Eagle, take Heart of Oak, and then come down here to Graceful Assault. Now, Graceful Assault means you get a 10% chance to gain Onslaught on kill for 4 seconds. And that's brilliant. It just makes you zoom straight through the campaign. Honestly, it's really great node. Then I'm taking the Bow Mastery over here, so 100% accuracy with equipped green socket on bows, because we're going to have green sockets on our bows most likely. Farsight as well. You could also change this to... I sometimes put the increased Mirage Archer duration, the 100% increased Mirage Archer duration. Depends on if you've got the accuracy or not. You can also take Precision during Act 1 as well. So in Act 3, we're coming over here, we're taking Aspect of the Lynx as well, but a bit more movement speed and attack damage, and we're taking Quick Step and 1 with Nature. Then once we're done with Act 3, we're going to Act 4, and we're taking like a little bit of life over here, and then coming down here to take the Primeval Force, and we get the hits have 25% chance to treat enemy monster elemental resistances as inverted. Now that's a really good node, because it could be that a monster has 25% elemental resistances, and 1 in 4 hits against it will treat it as if it has minus 25%. So that's a really decent node. Over here we're taking Intuition as well, a bit more life, bit more spell suppression. Then coming into Act 5, we're coming up here and just taking the Master Fletcher node for bow attacks, fire additional arrow. We get some extra life down here, and we've taken our first lab as well, so it's getting Gathering Winds, ascending as a Deadeye in the first lab, and that means that we're going to get some Tailwind, which increases our action speed, which is attack speed, that's movement speed, it's the the speed of all our stuff, everything we do. Then we're gonna make sure we pick up another arrow over here. So now we've got 2 additional arrows, which is really good, because lightning arrow at this point I use lightning arrow to level through the campaign. You could use rain of arrows if you wanted, or galvanic arrow. They're all great. If you're really comfortable with one of those, use that. For me, lightning arrows are tried and tested. It's got a little bit of a nerf this patch, but it's still really good for leveling through the campaign. And you can use lesser multiple projectiles with it as well to give it some better clear. So we're just taking multi-shot here during Act 6. We're coming into Act 7. We're taking Clever Thief and 10% of leeches instant. And we're taking Blood Drinker as well. And that's most of the things that we're doing in Act 7. Act 8, we're just filling out this wheel over here. We're coming over here and we're taking these long shot nodes here, and we're getting our second lab, that'd be the cruel lab, and we're taking far shot for that. Now this has been nerfed, so it used to be 60% more, now it's 30%, and this doesn't actually give you, this skill is, or this keystone is just called, so it's notable rather, is just called far shot. It doesn't actually give you far shot. So hopefully that works with the helmet, which does give you far shot, and if it does, then that's going to be, the helmet's going to be the best in the slot for sure. Coming into Act 9, we're taking some extra accuracy. We're coming up here taking charisma so we can fit in another, some extra auras, make it a bit comfy with the mana. And then coming into Act 10, we're coming over here and taking this Revenge of the Hunted, so we get some lots of spell suppression, lots of life. And then we're taking our third lab as well, Skills Fire, 2 additional projectiles. So now we've got 5 arrows with our lightning arrow. If we're not using LMP, and a lot more if we are. And at this point, white maps, this is when I would strongly consider moving into elemental hit of the spectrum. What we want to do is get as many ailments on the enemy as possible. So at this point, we're getting some spell suppression. We're going into map. So map modifiers are probably the most dangerous thing in Path of Exile for sure. So we're taking a bit of spell suppression. We need some defenses. We're going to take this Dazzling Strikes as well, so we've got some blind chance on the enemies. And then once you get your Uber Lab, honestly, in white maps or yellow maps, this is when you could swap. And I think I'm going to do it as soon as I get to white maps. I'm just going to buy the jewel as soon as it comes up on trade. I don't think it's going to be very expensive. Not many people are going elemental hit of the spectrum, so I think there's going to be a lot of people going with Lightning Strike this league, like I said, especially Lightning Strike of Arcing. But then we're taking some Forces of Nature as well as we come into yellow maps. We're going to take Focal Point for our 4th lab, our Uber Lab, and then at this point we can do a crit swap. And the crit swap means we just despec all of these things. We take some extra spell suppression, we take this crit wheel over here. We swap the sides on this because this is effect of non-damaging ailments, and we don't need the free shock and ignite chance anymore because we're crit now. So we're going to be doing that a lot. We're taking this crit wheel over here. We're taking all these King of the Hill nodes over here with lots and lots of increased crit strike chance. We're coming for piercing shots, so we get a lot of pierce on our projectiles. We're taking Mark of the Prey, so we get massively increased damage as well on our marked enemies. And then once we've got for the crit swap, then this is a level 84, so this is a very, very decent setup right here. Then I got a cluster version here, which has also got this Lethal Pride in here. Lethal Pride basically fixes a lot of the strength problems in this build because it's a right-hand side of the build, right-hand side of the tree build. So there's some strength issues and some intelligence issues. You need 155 int and 164 strength. You might not need that much intelligence actually. But then there's a few clusters in here, and Feed the Fury, Fuel the Fight, Martial Prowess. This is a great cluster for us. Then we've got and this is just a passive bow cluster. Then we've got Repeater and Streamlined, because 30% increased projectile damage is really good. 20% increased projectile speed is really good from Streamlined. And the attack and cast speed is also great. And then over here we've got Basics of Pain and Pressure Points. And this is a basic crit cluster. We've got an Ancestral Vision, and this pretty much allows us to get our ailment immunity and just some extra, magic jewels, rare jewels, in order to make up any stats you might be missing. Now, if we go into the end game setups here, we've got, you can put a thread of hope here, and there's lots of great stuff you can do with the thread of hope. You can put an unnatural instinct in here and get all of these nodes here, which is really, really nice. And because elemental hit of the spectrum does extra damage based on how many ailments are on the enemy, and it does say ailments, it doesn't say anything else. It doesn't say elemental ailments. So if we go to the end game section here, there we go. We can see this gem. It says fires a projectile with a wand or bow that deals fire, cold, and lightning damage. If the projectile hits them, it will deal damage in an area around them, and then 15% more damage per elemental ailment on the enemy for elemental hit of the spectrum. And then for yoke of suffering, which we can use as well. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go. This is where you get increased damage per ailment. So that means poison and bleed can also be put on the enemies for yoke, like double dipping on yoke. But just for elemental hit of the spectrum, it's, we're looking at elemental ailments. Sorry about that. Misspoke earlier on. So here with this tree, there's a few things that are interesting about this. So attack skills cost 20% of life instead of attack skills cost life instead of 20% of mana. This is something that it's kind of been nerfed from the health or from the life mastery. So the life mastery, this one got it used to be plus 50 to maximum life, now it's plus 30, and the skills cost life instead of 30% of mana used to be the mastery on the life, and now that's gone down to 15, but we're using the attack mastery wheel anyway, or the attack wheel anyway, so you may as well pick this one up to shave 5% off that nerf. I've taken a single bleed and crit strike chance node down here. That means we can get stuff on the yoke, and then you could also a single poison chance here. So that means we can just get a little bit extra with our yoke. Now, if we go into the skills here, so for the campaign, maybe you get a 5 link if you're lucky. I did on one of my runs. So you're just going to go, this is honestly the order that you want to go through, is Lightning Arrow, Mirage Archer, Returning Projectiles is insanely good, Trinity, because you want to be doing all kinds of lightning and fire and or cold. And this makes a huge difference, Trinity. And then Lesser Multiple Projectiles is really good for Lightning Arrow. For Artillery Ballista, this is for the single target. You want to go for Artillery Ballista, Focus Ballista, Elemental Focus, and Elemental Damage with attacks. For movement and other things, like we've got Frostblink here, which is just really nice. You could go with Flame Dash. It depends which one you want. This is probably why the build thinks it needs 155 intelligence. There's a couple of gems in here that you don't really need at that high level. So if we put this here, then yes, yeah, it was gone right down already. And Trinity, I think, is quite high too. But oh, maybe it's Elemental Focus. So Artillery Ballista, Focus Ballista, Elemental Focus, and Elemental Damage with attacks is really, we got our 2 Void Stones with this setup here and this setup, and that was it. And then Sniper's Mark on hit with Life Leech, because then you're not running out of mana when you need to be, if you're using Sniper's Mark on something, if you're marking something, you're probably going to need your mana because it's probably a rare or unique enemy. So this is a really nice setup to have these. And then Frostblink you can use with Life Leech too. And then Mana Forge Arrows, Frenzy, Rain of Arrows, and Culling Strike. So at some point you can be using the Hiri's Jade Amulet, which has Culling Strike for bow attacks, but this just gives you, Frenzy and Rain of Arrows. It's really, really nice. At some point you could also put in, if you manage to go through here and you have a crit swap really early, maybe you find a really good spine bow and you want to just go crit early, then you could change Rain of Arrows into Power Charge on crit, and then you get really, really good power charges sustained throughout the campaign. Really nice and comfy for that. And then you could just take Grace and Precision, and Herald of Thunder I have in here just because it's, it's basically, there's a free aura spot here. We've only got 45% unreserved mana, so you could chuck in a Herald or something if you wanted to for the campaign, or whatever you want. I like Grace because it means that I get hit less, I die less, and campaign takes less time, which I'm really, really a fan of. When it comes to the crit swap, then we're going to have Elemental Hit of the Spectrum at this point. We're going to go for Mirage Archer, Trinity, Returning Projectiles, Increased Crit Damage, and Inspiration. And this is going to be a very, very nice setup. Artillery ballista, you can have artillery ballista, or you can have elemental head of the spectrum with barrage support. And I'm leaning more towards that, to be honest. I think that's really good for single target. So you can do just screen wide clear with one of them, and then you could put barrage support in here and have another elemental head of the spectrum set up. And your barrage support one would look pretty much like this, except you probably change Mirage Archer to be elemental damage with attacks and returning projectiles. I think returning projectiles you keep, so maybe change Mirage Archer for barrage support, and that would be a really, really good setup too. So then again, we've got Flame Dash, we've got Life Tap, Sniper's Mark, Mark 1 hit, we've got Frenzy, Mana Forge Arrows and Crit Strike chance, Power Charge and Crit rather. And then here I've got Grace, Anger, and Cast when damage taken, and Immortal Call. So the Immortal Call gives us a bunch less elemental and fizz damage taken when we get hit too hard. So it's really, really nice to have a little layer of defense. And then when it comes to the end game, this is what we're looking for. Here's the barrage support, Inspiration Trinity, awaken elemental damage with attacks, because we've got some end game stuff now. And most of the other stuff is not really changed. We're taking summon Skitterbots though, because here we've got the same kinds of thing. We've got precision though instead of anger. We're taking summon Skitterbots because we also take Secrets of Suffering through the interrogation here, and that means that we can't chill, freeze, or shock, but we instead inflict Scorch, Brittle, and Sapped. So we're doing Scorch, Brittle, and Sapped, which are elemental ailments, and then we have Skitterbots, which apply chill and shock for us. So that's 5 times that we're 5 different ailments that we're putting on the enemy's elemental ailments. That means that our elemental head of the spectrum is going to do 15% more times by 5. And then yoke as well, we're double dipping with that, along with the bleed and the poison. So it's really a big boost to damage. And then here's our single target setup. We're going with these things, the same stuff we had before, but summon Skitterbots. And then as far as items go, I got these things here for the campaign. I actually have the loadouts here, so you should be able to select crit swap like this and then end game like this. I'm actually surprised these worked, to be honest. I was messing them up quite a bit, but this is what you can expect for our gear for the campaign. It's just rare items, life and res. That's it. That's all we're taking here. And the passive tree we're going to put on, let's say, Act 10. And then once we get into early mapping, let's say we're at yellow map, something like that, then we're just going for a bow with, just take some essences, chuck them on a bow. I pick up every bow and ID it just to check it. I have this Awaken PoE trade, so this just tells you the DPS on the bows as soon as you price check them, which is really useful. Poise Prism, this is a 1C, 2C, 3C unique pretty early on. We're taking a bunch of rare items again. All the rare items are pretty much life and resistances. Sometimes you might want to throw a stat on there, like intelligence on this one. We're taking Shadows and Dust because it's such a good source of rampage. And then Prism Weave, and this is 1C as well. And then Prism Weave is a 1C belt, but it's got lots of flat damage and some Ellie res on it, which is really, really nice. Then once we get into the crit swap, we're picking up Hiri's Truth, the Jade Amulet. This is pretty much what you need in total for the crit swap. You don't really need anything else apart from maybe a crit focused bow. So this is a spine bow. It's got higher crit chance than a thicket bow. But Hiri's Truth gives us a bunch of really important stats for the crit swap. So bow attacks of Culling Strike, lots of crit multi, level 30 precision, and precision has 100% increased mana reservation efficiency. It's really nice. Get some decent flasks. Don't cheap out on your flasks. They're so powerful. And then for the end game version, we're looking at a nice, juicy, thick bow. Like a rare quiver at this point with additional arrow maybe, or bow attacks have additional like crit multi or flat lightning. For a hat you want to go with spell suppression, probably intelligence. I want to get a fractured intelligence, lion pelt, and then just throw on some Chaos Res essences until I get Spell Suppress, or something like that. And then you can use Eldritch Currencies to try and spam the big life on the prefixes. For the implicits, just 24% reduced mana cost of attacks, increased mana reservation efficiency of skills, really, really good. Hiri's Ire is great. Lots and lots of stuff from Hiri's Ire. Shadows and Dust, again. Yoke, we're taking Yoke when in the end game because it kind of outclasses the Hiri's. And then a couple of Tamings. These are fantastic, and they do a lot of damage. They've been nerfed a bit, but they're doing a lot of damage. Stygian Vice, you can just get a bunch of. This is a bit outlandish, but you can get a lot of resist. I've got insanely overcapped resistances, so you wouldn't have to get something like this. But Stygian Vice, big life, big res, and then you want to get phasing on kill for 4 seconds on your jewel, and then a Dying Sun, and that's pretty much it. If we put this this stuff in here, then for the boots as well, I think it's really good to get Fracture, Spell Suppress, and then make some nice boots, but then put 23% chance to avoid elemental ailments on them, on the implicit, and then when you get an Ancestral Vision, we have modifiers to chance to suppress spell damage, also apply to avoid elemental ailments at 50% of their value. So with parts of the tree and this and our boots, we're completely element suppress capped. Interrogation as well. This is for Secrets of Suffering. Thread of Hope. This is it's this is even a -20 massive ring. So it's pretty bad. This is just any lethal pride. You can get really good lethal prides though. And then an Unnatural Instinct. You don't need an Unnatural Instinct, to be honest. You could just do whatever you want in that slot. You could also just completely remove this as well. And the damage is still like 3.5 million. It's still really, really ridiculous. So that's the POB. Okay, so this is what it looks like when we've got some semi-decent gear. We've got the Shadows and Dust, that's 1C. We've got the Prism Weave, that's 1C. We've got a couple of Taming Rings, that's pretty decent. This 6-link actually dropped during the leveling for us on this character. We've got a Hiri's Truth, which is going to be, it's like 20C day 1 or 30C sometimes. It depends if you go for really high crit multi. I prefer to get one that's fairly low in crit multi, but really cheap, or like a corrupted one. Poison Prism is 1C. And then our bow, we also dropped this bow as well during leveling too, and we just we popped an essence on it, and then we got cold damage, and then we just added on crit strike chance. So we're just gonna put this in here, and then put in a strand map here and run at it. And I think this character's been alive for 1 day 4 hours, so it's got this fairly decent sort of farming capability at this point. And you can see it just like rips through legions. Honestly, it's we don't have like Secrets for Suffering or anything like that. We don't have any of the really big ticket items. I think our bow is fairly good, but lots of the other stuff. I was testing it out with this Inspired Learning, but we're not going to use that for this. But yeah, as you can see, it's just so good for just tearing through a legion.